Hey, welcome to another episode of Special Presentations. It's my great pleasure to introduce an individual who is going to be coming aboard the Ohio State University South Centers, but more importantly, she has been very involved in a park that's a pollinator. So I'm looking forward to understanding more, so stay tuned. Back to another episode of Special Presentation. You know, in this particular program, what we like to do is we like to talk with individuals that have a really good background in the community and the agriculture. And it's my fortune to be speaking with Dawn Coleman. Dawn is also going to be a new employee of the Ohio State University South Centers, but she's also been working with Ohio State University in the Jackson County area. Dawn, welcome.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here.
You have done something that really piqued my interest. You have had a lot of working career involved with the small community in Jackson County. You've also had a career as a mother, yes. A grandmother.
Yes.
You know, so there's been a variety of different things that you've been involved with. Growing up with your children, they got involved with the 4-H programs. So let's sort of tell the listening audience a little bit about your background, where you came from, how you moved here, what basically have you been doing?
Okay. Well, I'm originally from Tennessee, and I moved up here after marriage. And I've raised 3 children in Ohio. We had a farm, a small farm in Vinton County, Ohio, where we started dabbling in 4-H and FFA. My daughter is receiving her American degree this coming October, which I'm extremely proud. She goes to Morehead State University for Animal Sciences.
You have mentioned FFA.
Yes.
Again, remind the audience what FFA is.
Future Farmers of America.
Okay. And so the farm that you raised your children on, what kind of farm was it?
We had everything. We had cattle, we had horses, chickens, pigs.
You know, it's interesting. You were telling me a little bit ago when you were growing up, you had a horse farm, if I want to call it that. But the interesting thing was they were Clydesdales.
Yes.
And that's sort of unique, isn't it?
Yes, we worked Clydesdales. My stepdad, he showed Clydesdales and sold. There was a few that may or may not have went to the Budweiser Corporation, so very proud.
Well, the interesting thing is, you know, most people just associate the Clydesdale with Budweiser.
Right.
But the horses are really strong.
They're very strong, and they were worked. We used them. We didn't live off of the working of the horses, but we used them as a recreational type thing.
And I would imagine trying to get on the horse.
They're huge.
Yeah, you need a stepladder or.
Yes, definitely assistance.
Are they gentle creatures?
Very much so.
And you know, again, all we see is on the TV.
Right.
You know, and they sort of they seem gentle, I guess.
They are. They're like any other horse. You have some good ones, mostly good, but there are some that get a little ornery, but they're mostly gentle giants.
I understand. And so, did you, on your Vinton farm, did you have Clydesdales?
We did not. We had
Belgians.
We had one Belgian that my youngest daughter actually started riding when she was about 2 years old.
Oh, very good.
And he was definitely a gentle giant.
Very good, very good. Hey, and just out of curiosity, when did your children get involved in the 4-H program?
They were always involved in something. If it wasn't with neighbors, our neighbors down the street that we actually farmed with, we kind of all went in together doing hay, putting hay up, and so on and so forth. He was very active in 4-H, so my children started at a very early age.
And I know that 4-H individuals get involved in different kinds of activities.
Yes.
I know my my children were involved with art.
Yes.
And it was in the middle of the city of Portsmouth, so they did not have the experience on the farm.
Yes.
So what are some areas that you watched your children get involved in?
Well, 4-H is not only livestock. There are so many developmental programs that homemaking, sewing, bird watching, fishing. There are so many other programs other than just livestock that I think makes a well-rounded person as an adult. It instills good foundation.
And currently, do you still live on that farm?
No,
Oh,
I do
okay.
not. I still own the farm.
Oh, okay.
But we do not live there anymore.
And did you have crops there?
We had hay,
Hay?
and we have plots that we went with the Jackson County Soil and Water Conservation as a no farming area with a pond and for
Oh, okay.
habitat.
Very good. It seems like you're a nature lover.
Absolutely.
And, growing up in Tennessee, I don't know the farmlands in Tennessee. Are they pretty much the same as Southern Ohio?
It's a lot more hilly here.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot
Really?
more hills, yes,
Oh,
from
wow.
our farm.
Oh, okay.
We were pretty flat, so.
Oh, okay. And
That was in Middle Tennessee State University, or Middle Tennessee
I know that you went to Middle Tennessee
State University.
State University,
Yes.
et cetera. And then, growing a family. About 10 years ago, you had the fortunate opportunity to do what?
I started with the Village of Coalton as fiscal officer,
Okay.
and I take care of all the money and paying the bills, and we have a fire department and a police department. So I work with the chiefs to create a budget, and we've had excellent audits since. We were in fiscal emergency when I started, and we're succeeding very well.
Very good. And if the listening audience does not know this, if they are from Ohio, Coalton, Ohio, was the birthplace of James Rhode,
Yes.
who was the Speaker of the House for 20 years. And he has been very much responsible for some of the different infrastructures in not only Southern Ohio, but throughout.
Absolutely. Also, the birthplace of the cash register.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
Wow.
Very proud of that. There's several famous people that came from Coalton.
And Coalton, what do you think the population is roughly?
Roughly 479.
Wow. so if someone moves out,
Yes, I know about it.
that's 0.5% of the population. But if two people move in, then
Absolutely.
so it grows like. So in Coalton, you were fortunate to start something.
Yes. The Pollinator Park. There was a gentleman by the name of John Jones that he had a little piece of land, a half an acre piece of land in Coalton that he donated to Coalton. And his only requirement and wish was to remember his grandmother, Rosie Jones. So we started a pollinator park, which my love of nature. We started a pollinator park called Rosie Jones.
So why do we need a pollinator park?
Everything that we eat, grow, maintain, we need bees. We need bees for our crops and vegetation, our health. So there's many benefits to pollinator
Oh, okay.
areas.
So when we think of pollinators, all I think about is bees.
Okay.
But we've had major problems with bees disappearing or bees getting sick, etc.
Absolutely.
So what happens if there isn't a colony of bees?
Well, like I said, our crops are not fertilized. The pollinator, they grow, they bring the pollination, excuse me, to other areas, and they make honey. Excuse me.
Oh, that's right.
And there's just their whole everything that we do, we need some type of pollination, or we would not eat,
Right.
as our
Right.
crops wouldn't be pollinated.
So the Pollinator Park really fosters different groups of pollinators outside of bees.
Yes, the whole purpose of the park is we have insect huts that we constructed through Andrew Bennett helped with the idea of the insect park or the insect hotels. They promote good bugs and snakes and bring in more pollinator butterflies and bats. Bats, they tend to eat it brings in the good animals and insects that keep out the bad, which hurt the pollinator, the bees and the monarch butterflies. And we've planted milkweed and several other different pollinator plants, native trees. There's bat houses that the bats help eat the things that endanger the honeybees, which we have seen a huge decrease of honeybees over the last several years.
Yeah. You mentioned several different pollinators. One is bats.
Yes.
And one is snakes.
Yes.
And let's face it, there's a lot of individuals out there that are either afraid of one or both.
Right. Absolutely.
Don't you find it true, though, that the snakes and the bats and some of the others are really our friends?
They're beneficial. They're extremely beneficial. Even though I admit that I have a slight fear of snakes, I appreciate the purpose of the snake, so, as well as the bat.
You brought some slides here. Maybe we can go through a couple of the slides. So when you started the park, when did you start the park?
It was in 2017. It was an idea from Annetta Lewis that works with me at Coalton. She's our court clerk, our council clerk, and she brought it to the Jackson County Soil and Water Conservation District, and just kind of to get an idea of what we could do, because we were given this small half-acre plot of land, and we knew that we wanted to do something that gave back.
So we're looking at the land. Is that correct?
Yes, that was close to the original state. It was full of trees, and that actually has been cleared off a little because it was a mess. It had a lot of undergrowth and brush and trees and invasive trees. So we select cut with the help of Andrew Bennett. We select cut trees that will be beneficial, oak trees and just native trees. And we planted several native trees in Ohio, chestnut and different and that's what the little white flags are, is where our trees are planted.
And those particular trees really help to grow the pollinators?
Yes, and it gives protection for the birds and our birds that are come in to nest. We've asked individuals if they have little bird houses that they can come out and make a little memorial, whether it's for their family or whatever, and hang them in our trees to bring in more birds.
You know, we at our house we have a little garden, and basically we have compost.
Yes.
Former foods and things of that nature.
Yes.
And one year we had a blueberry bush. And so we fed the birds.
Yes, absolutely.
with the blueberry bush.
If you don't net blueberries,
Yep.
you definitely feed the birds.
There was close to three. We were just proud.
Right.
Now we have a cantaloupe growing. And we've had tomatoes and things of that nature. So we haven't planted, whenever possible. We throw like the seeds from watermelons
Yes.
and different things into the compost, and it grows.
Wonderful. Volunteers.
Yeah.
Coffee grounds are great for
Yes.
plants.
Yes.
And anything that you plant that blooms is wonderful for pollination.
Yes. As a matter of fact, in our one place, though, we don't see a lot of bees.
Unfortunately.
And I know there's a lot of theories out there about the bees.
Right.
And it's my understanding, I may be wrong, but the only plants or trees that are solely bees is almond trees. Now, I may be wrong, but out in California, they are dependent upon those bees.
Right. We have there are 3 areas in our cemetery in Coalton that have nests of honeybees.
Huh.
And I've had a bee expert to come out, and there's one set that he knows for certain are Italian bees. And one is a cluster of pine trees. They grew together, and when they grew up, it made like a pit in the middle, which the bees came in and made a nest.
So Italian bees versus what are some of the other types of...
I don't know a lot of the different bee species, but the Italian bees I hear
They're
are
gentle.
docile. Yes,
Yeah. Huh.
they're more docile than some of the others.
Yeah.
So which is great. So we have actually marked those trees off to protect those.
Oh, very good, very good. So, do you harvest the bees? Do you sell them, or do you let them?
We let them alone in their natural state.
Oh, very good.
Which is the best way, because who knows if we were to cut them down and try to harvest the bees, the queen, you may kill the queen in the process.
Yeah.
Or it's possible. I mean,
Yeah.
it's possible to do, but we'd rather leave them in their
Yeah.
natural state
Well,
because we can, and
Yeah.
the trees are still solid enough to where they have made tons of honey that just oozes out into the ground, but they're still solid enough to where we can leave them alone.
That's interesting. And so some of the other pollinators, well, let's go back to your slides for a minute. Before we get into the other pollinators, what's happening here?
We made a path through the park that kind of displays the insect huts, and it shows in the back part of the piece of property we've planted all in pollinator plants.
Oh.
So we made a path that goes through, and it kind of takes you through the whole process, which the bat houses and the insect hotels. The insect hotels were constructed of concrete block, wood. I think some of the next slides show right here to your right, it shows the construction of the insect hotels, and this was
What kind of insects are we talking about?
worms. The worms go in at the bottom, and anything that the bats and the black snakes, garter snakes can feed off of, that will bring those in, and not the copperheads and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
And we have seen several snakes
Yeah.
and bats, so it's thriving. But I have made, if you visit the ROSEY JONES Park, I've made signs that go on the outside of the insect hotels that explain kind of how the insect works. It's its own little colony.
Huh. Should insect farms be more prevalent amongst many?
Yes, bees they actually house in the insect hotels also, and there are several different hotels that you can buy for bees, or you can make your own. Pinterest is a great place to find those on.
Oh, that's interesting.
But they all have to have homes and safe places to go so they can.
Are you also finding that bumblebees and wasps and some of the other stingy are good pollinators?
Well, not as much, and that is our hope, is to keep the good insects,
I see.
if you will, to not harm the honeybees. So that's kind of the purpose of the insect hotels, is
okay.
to house the stuff that is promoting the health of the honeybees and
that's
butterflies, and gives places for the butterflies to come in and make their cocoons that are safe. And
I'm quite sure you have a very limited working knowledge. Maybe you would probably know more. I have a very limited knowledge on monarchs.
Yes.
But it's my understanding that monarchs live to be 3 to 4 years.
Yes. Yes.
And that they travel from, some of them from Mexico up to the United States.
Yes.
To me, I just find that fascinating because you have this little fluttering butterfly that travels 2,000 miles.
Absolutely. And we have planted milkweed. And milkweed brings in monarchs specifically. And we have another area at the cemetery that we kind of dedicated to milkweed and clover to bring in the honeybees and the monarch butterflies.
And when you speak of are monarchs the only ones that are pollinators?
No. We have several butterflies that most butterflies pollinate. They get the pollination on their legs and move to other places, but monarchs they're few, where the population has decreased.
Yeah.
So we're trying to promote
anything
to make the pollination process better.
Very good, very good. I know that my wife and I have a butterfly bush.
Yes.
And it's interesting to see the different kinds of butterflies that come around.
Right. Not only are they purposeful, but they're beautiful.
Can we go back to those slides one more time? And so there's the walkway.
Yes, those are the paths that we created so you can comfortably go through the park without getting your feet dirty.
Good.
We have benches to where you can sit, and Teresa Hively actually donated the first bench at the park, so you can come in and watch the butterflies and the bats in the evening, and it's a very nice experience.
And I would imagine, it is a park and it is inviting to walk around.
Yes.
But sometimes it's better to stay on the path.
Absolutely. Absolutely, because we do have native plants and other trees that we have planted that we would like to see grow mature.
One more time. Can we go back? And then what is the pictures of these?
This shows some of the insect huts and also the front of the Pollinator Park. There's actually a large barn quilt, and I painted that before we even started on the Pollinator Park.
And let's see, what do we have here?
On the left is a complete insect hotel, and that is the plaque on the front that I made, and there's a narrative that explains the working of the insect hotel, and the middle one is just that it is a pollinator park.
Were there a lot of people that assisted you with building the park?
Tons. There's not a person that knows me or is related to me that did not have a hand in the pollinator park.
So you were a gentle persuader.
Sure.
I understand. Did your children help?
Yes. Children, grandchildren, friends, family. This is the grand opening, the slides that are there now. We had a grand opening and had hot dogs and refreshments and gave out fertilizer and wildflower seeds, pollinator seeds.
Very nice.
It was a nice turnout.
Yeah. And so, is that something that you painted? Or
Yes, that's the barn quilt that I painted for the ROSEY JONES Park that commemorated the opening of the park.
Now, the different triangles and different things, usually you don't see the same patterns.
Yes, there's a huge following of barn quilts. There's tours and everything that you can actually do a barn quilt tour, and each one of them has a specific meaning. So it's very interesting.
And so I'm assuming you have an understanding of some of the meanings.
Yes.
And so, can we go back to that one picture? Care to share, enlighten?
This barn quilt is the compass, and it kind of there's each barn, 1800s, 1920s, they would have a quilt that kind of explained their family,
Oh, I
whether
see.
it's
I see.
origin
That's interesting.
or what they do, or just something. There's maple leaf barn quilts that if they have a lot of maple trees prevalent there, but it kind of tells a story about the farm and being a nature lover and traveling through several different states, and you see these everywhere, and
Yeah.
each one of them, Google is your friend. So if I don't know what one stands for, I'll Google it and find out. It's very interesting because it kind of tells a little story about that individual farm.
Well, that is neat. I never knew that. I know we're winding down on the amount of time, etc. But tell us a little bit. Someone is interested in coming to the park.
Yes.
How do they get there? What's the best way?
It's on 93, which is a pretty main road in Jackson County. There's a little map right here on the screen. If you come into 93, it's on 3rd. So you can see the sign, the ROSEY JONES Park sign from 93.
Oh, okay. All right.
And you
And
just turn.
so that's the road from Chillicothe down to Gallipolis. Is that correct?
93 is a very long road, but it goes through Wellston to Jackson.
Okay. All right. Oh, okay. I don't know what I was thinking, but I would assume that if you ask someone, it's a pretty familiar sight.
Yes,
Oh,
93 is very long, but the section of the ROSEY JONES Park in Coalton
very good.
is between Wellston
Very
and
good.
Jackson.
And is there any shout outs you want to give to some of the individuals that really helped to make this?
Oh, absolutely. Andrew Bennett was huge. He's now with Hawking College. He's moved on to some of his passions, but Mayor Milliken, Annetta Lewis, Mike Bledsoe, my family, friends, Chris Brown. Chris Brown donated a lot of the machinery that we use to take up
very good.
trees. So thanks to everybody.
Well, I'm speaking with Don Coleman. Don has had a lot of experience on the farms. She's a special auditor,
Fiscal officer.
fiscal officer at Coalton. She's also our newest employee member at the Ohio State University South Centers, which she's going to be working with the manufacturing program. She's a program assistant. So we'll be hearing a lot from her in regards to not only farms and agriculture and manufacturing, but in other areas.
Yes.
Dawn, I want to thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And so this is Patrick Dengtel, special presentation. Hope to see you soon.